I thought I had found the perfect solution to make my paintings even more magical, but it didn't quite turn out how I imagined. So in this video, I'm going to share this week's watercolor experiment and how you can use what I've learned to paint gorgeous autumn landscapes. Hi, I'm Françoise. It's been a while. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, the place to learn watercolor in a way that feels loose and realistic, but still approachable. Granulation is one of those things that can instantly transform a watercolor painting. It's how you get those dreamy, natural textures that make your art alive with realism. Compared to smooth and even color, you might have noticed that some paints dry with little specks and textures, and that's because with some of them, the pigment particles are heavy enough that they'll clump together and settle in the paper's texture. For example, when you use a non-granulating color, the result comes out smooth. Now keep in mind that the paper I was using here is already quite textured, but the paint itself doesn't create any extra effects. With some blacks or blues that are known to naturally granulate, you might start to notice tiny specks like it's the case here. It granulates a little, but it is still quite subtle. Then comes another kind called super granulating paints like Schmincke's Tundra Violet. And here you can really see the magic. Pigments separating into the various colors, making that violet, and a textured surface that looks alive. These paints are fun because you know exactly what you're getting when you buy them, and if you watch the videos on this channel, you already know they're some of my favorites. And now here's the Winsor & Newton granulation medium. The idea is that you add it to a non-granulating color, like my standard red, and get a similar effect the granulating colors give. But when I tested it, the effect was barely visible, and honestly, I was a bit puzzled and disappointed. In a moment, I'll share 2 mistakes that I made that contributed to this fail when I was using this medium. But now why this video matters and why I'm focusing on granulation today is because it might help you paint natural textured surfaces while keeping that loose watercolor look. And you can think about rocks, bark, sand, moss, even foamy water, old stone walls, and even the dimple skin of fruit. And once you notice it, you'll see opportunities everywhere with granulation. I wanted to take my experiments further with the medium and my already super granulating paints, and I hope this inspires you to use yours if you have any. So first, I tested the granulation effect on 3 types of paper: hot press, cold press, and rough. And normally, you would expect the granulation to stand out best on rough textured papers. The hills and valleys on the surface will be more pronounced on these papers, and that's why there's more opportunity for pigment clumps to show. But again, I was surprised. I loved the hot press results so much. It gave such a beautiful, delicate texture. I still wouldn't recommend that hot press paper for painting landscapes though, because it dries very fast. Ash cold press was the next test, and this is one of the most popular paper types in the community. The outcome felt too smooth and even for my tastes, not enough texture showing. But now look at Beihong cold press. It almost looks like a rough paper. And that one gave me the best result, and I think it's best for landscapes as well, especially if you combine it with granulating paints. Some natural granulating paints can create not only incredible textures, but also separate into multiple colors, like hints of blue and green appearing out of nowhere here. And I wanted to see if the medium could mimic that with any color. So I mixed 2 non-granulating colors, red and graphite gray, and then I added the medium. And I'm sorry to say that almost nothing happened. They did not separate. Just a tiny bit of granulation, that's it. Probably because both pigments had particles of a similar weight, so they didn't really have a reason to separate. But then I tried adding red to my tundra violet, which normally separates into a light violet and brown when used on its own. And with the medium added, I could actually see the red separating more clearly from the darker tones. So it worked a little better, but still nothing spectacular. And at this point, I was starting to wonder if this medium was even worth it. I tried adding just a drop or two of the medium to graphite gray, and the result was slight granulation, but nothing very interesting. Then I finally read the instructions. Mistake number 1 is to not do this when you use something new. And it turns out you're supposed to add a lot of that medium to the paint. So that's what I did. And check this out. Immediately in the palette, I could see the particles separating before I even touched the paper. The catch, though, is that the more medium you add, the more it dilutes and lightens the color too. But knowing this, you can actually use this to your advantage, like for soft atmospheric effects or for a highlighted part in a painting. So I think that might be a great product for people who like to use very light colors and make their paintings very minimalistic, like a one-layer thing. But I wanted to see what it will look like in the type of painting where more time is going to be spent on building realism. I used that reference here, and actually if you'd like to see the full step-by-step of what follows with my real-time voiceover, the tutorial is on my Patreon, and you'll find well over 100 watercolor and watercolor pencil projects there as well, so I'll link that down below in the description. First, I sketched out my landscape, then I got straight into the painting. For the sky, I kept it simple and light because with granulating paints, it's best to let washes stay fresh and spontaneous. Too many layers can cover up the effect, and I wanted more time spent on the grassy field anyways. I used Beohong cold press paper here again with its nice, almost rough texture. I started with a non-granulating green for vibrancy. Then I layered in Tundra Violet, which was my main granulating color, and I knew was going to be great for dark darks and a lot of contrast. To tie everything together, notice I added little touches of red in the grass, the same red that I planned to use on the cabin. And I did that so the whole scene would feel more harmonious. I also mixed my bright green with dark violet to create a wide range of natural shades. Because it's the cool thing about granulating paints, you can just mix them up with anything you like. For contrast, I built up the base of the grass with heavier layers of dark violet, but at the same time, I made sure to keep light areas untouched above, using tapping strokes with my brush to soften transitions and avoid covering everything up. I needed those areas for highlights and also for more granulation to show since a lot of layers tend to weaken it. At some point, I dropped in the granulation medium, hoping for magic, but honestly, not much happened on the paper itself. Still, take a look at the grass. The combination of textured paper and super granulating violet gave me a beautiful natural look that looks realistic enough without being too tight. And of course, combined to all the other colors and my brushstroke techniques and overall process. Later, I used my super granulating violet on the bark of trees. I knew I was going to create a great autumn texture and mood. This trunk painting will be included in my upcoming watercolor forest course in a bonus module using just granulating paints. But mostly throughout the course, we'll focus on painting trees, bark, branches, roots, foliage, anything forest with regular supplies. So if you like sneak peeks and updates when the course is released, you may join my newsletter from the link in the description of the video. My honest verdict about the Winsor & Newton granulation medium is that it is not a must-have. It can work, but only if you use a lot of it, seems like. So for now, I'll just stick to my already granulating paints. But that's my experience, and maybe you've had a different result. So if you've tried this medium before, or if you know anything that I don't, let me know in the comments. Love to hear how it worked for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.